Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and Stephanie Burke. The science advisor is off on a Bigfoot case tonight. He texted me earlier and said that he was heading out to Western Massachusetts, out to the Berkshires, to deal with a Bigfoot case. So, well, I guess there was something that's been going on there, so they called him in. So he's been doing a lot of Bigfoot work lately since he's hooked up with the BFRO.
Right.
So, that's good. He said he's going to try and call in if he can.
Right.
But
Most
he
of the time
doesn't.
he doesn't have service.
Well, and he said the other problem, too, is he doesn't know if he can talk about
the
details of what it is they're doing. So if he can, he will. But if not,
I imagine it's going to be a cold night to be Bigfoot hunting.
Yeah, but he said that he had to go out there now because you don't want to wait too long, especially where it snows a lot out that way. Like, you want to get on this while it's fresh and new and before the tracks get covered up and all that.
I wonder why no one's ever found a Bigfoot.
We have had this discussion numerous times.
I know.
And we just keep talking in circles around it, really. Some of the arguments make sense. You don't really see a lot of dead animals as you're walking through the woods, but you do see some sometimes.
Right.
So, which would make me think that I would see a Bigfoot at least once.
We're going to have Dana and Greg on, because from what I understand, Dana is amazing at Bigfoot calling or Bigfoot language.
Well, we have to have them on anyway for a full show. We haven't had them on enough anyway.
No.
It's because they're always busy on Saturday nights.
We need more Newkirk in our life.
I actually called them a couple weeks ago to come on, and they were actually on their way to Point Pleasant.
That's right.
So when they were doing that, they had this top secret plan that they hadn't told anybody where they were going. And then Greg told me, I'm like, why did you tell me where you were going? Because now I got to keep the secret.
Yep.
Oh, but I appreciated knowing, but
they're awesome.
But it was like very hard when, because people were asking me, oh, did you ask Greg and Dana to come on? I said I did, but they're gonna be somewhere. Do you know where? I do know, but I can't tell you.
They're so cool. I love them.
So Matt, while we were in the break, there was the suggestion had come up in the first hour about having Commander Sonny Cito on again. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Commander Sonny Cito was one of the most infamous guests in the history of Spooky Southcoast. We had her on many years ago. She claims to be the reincarnated Roswell alien. The alien that crashed at Roswell in 1947, was it? And she died. Well, the alien died in the crash. But then the alien's soul was resurrected in Commander Sonny Cito. And she had all this information that I guess didn't turn out to be mathematically correct. It turned into this whole big argument between her and Moniz about physics, and she hung up the phone and, said she wasn't going to be bullied. And
right. What? Oh God. When was that? What year was that? Does anyone know?
Give me a second, and I'll tell you.
In the chat room.
Oh God.
Pull that information out. Google it for us. Something.
Well, I'm just looking it up
because I'm trying to figure out, because I found her website, which is outstanding. Not dated whatsoever.
I'm sure it's exactly the same.
Although
as it was back then.
Yeah. The thing that I do like is she used to do cartoons, which are mildly amusing.
She drew cartoons, or she was a cartoon?
I guess she drew them.
I'm gonna go with the latter on that one.
But they're actually not that bad. They're slightly humorous. If you like very dry, like New Yorker type.
So, just to answer your question, going back to the old Spooky Southcoast message board.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. All right, so it's been that long.
Back in the day.
So, this was apparently it was July of 2010 that we had her on.
Okay.
Because this person was commenting on July 30th of 2010, and we would have had her on probably around 4th of July weekend, because that's the anniversary of the Roswell crash. So, it would have been July of 2010. I'm guessing, because I remember this comment being fresh when the discussion happened. Like, this wasn't something that came up years later. This was something that came up. So should I read the complaint first before we get into it?
This is a good one.
This is the post by T James 03. At first, I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to. Matt Moniz totally ruined the spooky South Coast episode featuring Commander Sonny Cito. Is she reincarnated alien from Roswell? Who knows, but Moniz's complete derision and disdain for this guest was extremely rude. Also, I listened to Spooky South Coast for the guests, not for Matt Moniz's personal political views. It was very bizarre when he was throwing in his opinion about President Obama when Miss Cito was trying to tell her story. I don't know what was up with Moniz, but his Obama non-sequiturs and blatant rudeness to this guest was very out of the ordinary. I hope he doesn't continue to repeat this behavior. Even Tim Weisberg sounded startled when Moniz went on his odd political diatribe and tried to save face by telling Miss Cito to just ignore him. That sounds like something I would have said.
Oh, that sounds ugly.
All right, but this commenter finished with, by the way, no matter what we think of Sonny Cito's story, she should have been treated with respect and wasn't. And I did respond back to this, and I took exception with the fact that this person felt like she wasn't treated with respect. Because we pride ourselves on treating all guests with respect.
If I recall, I think it went fairly well for the majority of the interview.
Right. It was just when it got to the point where
yeah.
she was throwing out math that didn't make sense and didn't work. Moniz took exception to that. And so anyway, you were looking up Commander Sonny Cito's website.
Right. First of all, I'm going to send you guys a message.
Okay.
And then that's on her website, which is fun and creepy.
I don't know if I want to click on this.
Around like 2014, the web admin posted, due to influences beyond our control, Sonny has asked that her web pages be removed, and she continues to be harassed by certain individuals who have no clue about her integrity and her compassion in reaching out to help others. And she wants to thank everyone over the last few years who have helped out. So, I don't know if she's still alive, but her website is up but never going to be updated again.
This link that you sent us, I kind of want one.
Do you?
No.
Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, and don't get me wrong, they freak me out. Apparently, Commander Sonny Cito makes one-of-a-kind...
She's into arts and crafts.
Handmade alien dolls.
Anatomically correct.
Are they anatomically correct?
Stop
Do they
it.
have penises?
I don't know.
My favorite...
That would... You'd have to argue the fact that aliens would have some sort of...
I don't know which one is more my favorite, and I know that it's it's stupid to talk about photographs on the radio, but I don't know if I like.
I can bring it up on the thing.
Well, I don't know if I like the one that
what are we doing here? Streaming.
There's one that has blonde curly hair, so it looks like it's like a maybe a half alien, half human hybrid, but it has like blonde curly hair, and it kind of looks like I'm trying to think of who it reminds me of. It reminds me of like a celebrity. But I can't think of who it reminds me of. But I don't know if that one's my favorite or the one right next to it where it's clearly like the Bruce Leroy of alien dolls.
Oh, maybe. Which one is that? Because I probably have to have it.
It's got like a blue headband tied around its head, and it has like a blue suit that looks very much like a fancy ninja gi. But I don't know which one's my favorite.
I like the one in purple. At the very top there. That one reminds me if Prince was an alien.
Oh yeah, that the one that's just like lounging there on the chair.
Right.
It's just like hanging out. It's cool.
So, I found some information I'm going to send to you guys.
About Commander Sonny Cito?
Yeah.
I like on the website she adds like each doll is unique and cannot be duplicated. Handmade. That's crafts.
Well, I mean, it could probably be duplicated. They don't look like they're that. You know what I mean? Like they don't look that complicated. Like I'm not any kind of crafter at all. But when I was in 8th grade home economics, I had to make a stuffed dinosaur on a sewing machine, and I'm confident enough in my sewing machine skills that I could probably make one of those.
These are kind of adorable. I'm changing my tone on these. I'm looking at them again.
I just don't like aliens.
I don't like the one with the curly hair.
Yeah, who does it remind you of? It reminds me of somebody.
Pauly Shore? I don't know. Or Andy Dick.
No, I want to say it's a woman that it reminds me of. But like a famous actress.
So I have sent over my top secret squirrel message. But what's next on our agenda?
Well, I don't know.
What's next on our list?
I almost think we should bring her back on if she's still alive. We need to have a follow-up episode.
What I just sent you looks like she's been updating her Facebook page regularly, so
Maybe.
She might come back on.
It also seems like she's super into the Titanic now.
Yes.
So she might not be the Roswell alien anymore. She might be a Titanic.
Yes, so things might have
Resurrection.
changed because it looks like she constantly posts about the Titanic. So I'm kind of interested to see what's going on.
This might get weird. I say we go for it.
That's what we like.
I say we go for it.
Keep
All right.
Keep an open mind.
Well, heading back into our Spooky South Coast year in review, we're up to about April. And in April, that was when we had Danny Roberge came back. Danny Bigbeard came back to talk about his new program, EchoVox X, which, for those of you who have never used it, it was basically like having 100 different ghost boxes going all at once. It was EchoVox technology, but with streaming web radio as the sound source instead of having it be a phonetic generator. And I was lucky enough to get to be one of the people that kind of beta test it.
Right.
And I liked it. I thought it was I liked it better than using a single ghost box. But I don't know, it's still in my arsenal of apps that I have, but nothing replaces EchoVox for me.
No.
Especially now that I have 3.0 and it makes such a huge difference to have 3.0 as opposed to the one that I was using. So, but it was very interesting to get kind of the behind the scenes story about how that was created. So definitely worth going back there and listening to that episode as well. Then we had an episode where we talked about nightmares. And we shared some of our own nightmare experiences. We got a little
That's
personal
right.
on that episode.
That was a very personal episode.
And that was also when we had Dave McCullough from the BFRO call in as well. And that was right around the time when Monique started working on a lot of these Bigfoot cases.
Right.
So
It was much warmer then.
right. It was. But it was we kind of knew then that like we could tell Moniz was
Shifting.
pivoting toward
Right.
doing that because it's something that he'd always been doing over the years, but I just think that it was grabbing his attention more and more. So that happened back in April. Let's see what else we talked about. Oh, then back on April 15th, we were talking about how we had some of these spooky South Coast returns after many years of not being on the show. That was when we brought back Paul Eno, who was
That's right.
the second guest ever on Spooky South Coast. So he might have been the third. I don't remember this. He was on the second episode of Spooky South Coast. I don't remember if we had him on first or if we had Reverend Gail Hicks on first predicting the Super Bowl. But it was very hard to find psychics back then that were local.
Huh.
You couldn't just open the phone book up and find psychics back then.
No, you couldn't.
There was no Facebook.
I remember I went to a few shops asking, and
Did
I got
you
turned away.
really?
Yeah,
Stop
I did.
it.
Well, because I didn't know. That was before the internet, really. So it was
Listen,
just like
before we had the internet.
Yeah, but I mean, like
But before social
it was-
media, though.
When you search psychic, like nothing really comes
Right,
up.
you would get
like
you would,
there was some local shops and things like that.
but you made a
And-
face when I said that.
Stop
isn't
it. I was hoping you didn't catch that.
I did.
Apparently, I just watched it on YouTube.
Is that that's the thing is you can't make faces anymore because you're always on camera. But
I forget.
is there like a psychic fight there?
No.
Okay.
No. I just have some.
But you know each other?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. God, do I out that or do I not?
To be fair, we had no idea who you were back then. Like you weren't
Oh,
doing
no.
this stuff.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. I just don't enjoy people that act a certain way, I guess.
I think
is
back
that way?
then we didn't really have an understanding of the different types of psychics as well, because there's psychics, there's psychic mediums, and then there's there's psychics that are willing to work with paranormal groups, and then there's
ones
others
that
that
refuse.
don't.
Yep, and then there's
And
ones
they
that
have, I mean, they have their own reasons why they don't want to do that, but
There's
I mean, it's a different style, I guess.
there's also ones that fake it and take money.
It's true. Those are
There's also ones that have been
Right.
caught faking it and taking money.
Well, listen, this was what it was.
Is that a little sprinkle. Were you the salt guy?
The salt guy.
we need that meme of Stephanie sprinkling the salt. But this,
I've never seen it.
you never see it.
No.
You never saw that.
No, we're gonna have to pull that up.
Oh god.
That's all right. I didn't know that he was actually sprinkling salt and that it meant you were
really?
salty until you just said that. So
Oh no, I'm not salty at all. I might be salty that I lost $125 at some point.
Oh, good idea.
speaking of which, I taught Jim Phillips what memes were this week.
I was
Nice.
gonna say that
Yeah.
that
It's
would have
about
been
time. Yeah.
a perfect Kermit sipping the tea meme right there.
Well,
Ain't none of my business.
we had her on to predict the Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
It was, like I said, it was our second episode ever. So we had her on to predict the Super Bowl, and I don't think she got
It was
any.
totally wrong.
right, but-
It was absolutely
Yeah.
wrong.
You've had Linda on to do basketball too, right?
Yeah, we had her. No, we wrote there was an article in the paper
Mm-hmm.
about her predicting basketball. But that was just that was like a tongue-in-cheek fun thing.
Yeah.
And that's how I actually found out about the other person, is that there was an article about her in the newspaper, and I was like, well, let's call her and see,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize that there was like a lot of psychics that lived around here.
That's hard to
Right.
do anyway. Do with predictions anyway, is it?
Of course, there's a lot of factors that come
Yeah.
into play.
Without getting too deep into it.
I mean, like you can't.
I still
I
know
feel like
people-
you can't really go too far into specifics. You can go.
You
I
can
don't
go
know.
as far as
The understanding that I have is like you can kind of like pick out a general path for someone or something, some
Everything
event,
involves
but
free
not
will.
like
Right.
you can't pick out
Mhm.
a score or something.
I have people that call me every year and ask who's going to win the Super Bowl.
My favorite thing to read every year is there's a column that Mike Thomas does in the Fall River Herald News,
Mm-hmm.
where he asks like famous people who he thinks he's going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to win the Super Bowl, and he just like tries to like reach celebrity. Like he'll email like Lady Gaga's people and be like, "Can I talk to Lady Gaga?"
Mm-hmm.
And he'll just get like all these celebrities that weigh in on the Super Bowl. It's hilarious
That's awesome.
every year. But I always thought about doing that here, like with a bunch of psychics, like just
You
talking
could.
to a bunch of different ones and being like, "Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? What do you think is going to happen? What's the final score going to be?" Just
And
for fun, though.
Whichever one got it right, you're like, you're the real psychic.
You are the real one. The rest of you are crap. You can never be on the show. It's going to be
Who's
like
gonna
my
win
own.
the Bud Bowl?
What's his name? Bob, the guy who rates all the psychics.
Bob Olson.
It'll be my own Bob Olson test.
That'd be cool.
If you can guess the Super Bowl right, then
I usually get the Super Bowl right. I hate doing the score.
What about the Puppy Bowl?
I've never even watched the Puppy
You've never
Bowl.
watched the
how
Puppy
do you
Bowl?
not
No.
watch the Puppy Bowl?
Oh, man.
You're like a prime
I
Puppy Bowl
know.
candidate.
It's so adorable.
Are you trying to tell me that you don't think I watched the Super Bowl, but I'd watch
No,
the Puppy Bowl?
the Puppy Bowl's on before the Super Bowl.
I know it is.
It's a little too commercial, I think, this year.
Yeah.
The Puppy Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not been
Ever
the same.
since they added the bowl cam, the water bowl cam.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. They have
I've
a
never
they have
seen
a camera underneath the
Yep.
water bowl,
Okay.
so when the dogs drink the water, you get a shot from
Yep.
underneath, and it's kind of adorable. But
Kind of.
The
adorable.
XFL may be coming back too. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that, Matt?
oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Vince McMahon actually put back in for the trademarks and started a new company, sold some of his stock, started a new company called Alpha Sports. And supposedly he's bringing back the XFL. So, maybe we'll carry those games on the radio on Saturday nights and we'll get kicked off. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
Boo.
All right, let's go back into our year in review. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, we were saying we had Paul back on.
Yep.
And we talked more about the idea of quantum physics and the paranormal and other things that had changed in the 10 plus years that we had, what was it? So 11 years since we had talked to Paul The next episode, we had Lyle Blackburn on to talk about the legend of the Boggy Creek Monster and some of the other crypto work he has done, and including working with Seth Breedlove on the Small Town Monsters. We did a lot of crypto shows this year.
I feel like
We
it
did.
was a big year for crypto stuff.
It certainly was. I mean, overall, there were a lot of big crypto stories in the news, and we're going to get into one of those coming up in just a little bit. But it seems like it was one of those topics where we were really lagging behind in recent years. So in talking with Chris when he was booking the show, we said, this is something that we've really let fall by the wayside, and we should bring back a lot of that. And I think we did a pretty good job of sharing some of those stories this year. Then we were joined by the Dr. Scott Kolbaba, talking about physicians' untold stories from the world of medicine that prove to Dr. Scott and to his colleagues that there is something more than this, that there is an afterlife, there are ghosts, there is, some sort of other realm where we go when we leave here. And I remember he talked a lot about intuitive healing and intuitive diagnosis. So that was, these are things that we've talked about a lot from the psychic perspective.
Right.
But it was good to have somebody coming on talking about it from the medical perspective. And I think that's one of the big stories of the year this year, is that there was a lot of those kind of stories coming out in the media. A lot of stories of just miracle healings, people who decided to go to the doctor because something had been bothering them, and if they had waited another day, they would have died.
Right.
Those type of stories. There seem to have been a lot of those this year. A lot of people who were going into the hospital or going into the doctor to have a small thing checked out, and it turns out that there was something bigger that was wrong with them, and they're like, I never go to the doctor, but this thing has been persistent, so I thought that I would go. A lot of those type of stories that maybe the medical field is finally starting to tune in to some of that stuff. Maybe medicine has gotten to the point where it's become so charted, so figured out, so scientific, so like second nature almost, to be able to go through these processes.
Right.
That maybe they're starting to, that they've been able to make the medical part of it second nature, that they are opening themselves up more to the psychic aspect of it.
Intuition is so strong with people, and they tend to push it away. And doing something robotic or routine like that, you can miss a lot. Just going off of your own gut feeling. A lot of people talk about it like mother's intuition is probably the most widely accepted type of intuition. Like, mothers know best. How many stories have come out where, you bring your child to the doctor, misdiagnosis or whatever it might be, but mother's intuition knows best. So it's kind of along the same lines. I think if people just use their intuition more, then we'd be better off, because sometimes not every single person who has, we'll say, if 5 people show up with the same type of disease or problem, it doesn't mean that it affects them all the exact same way. So that was a fascinating show.
And I remember there being a lot of talk with Dr. Kolbaba when he was on with us too, about there being more of an acceptance from the patients too, to suggest some of these things on their own, to say, to almost ask the questions of, well, what is your gut telling you? But also I remember him blasting the fact that a lot of other people in the medical field, like you said, it becomes kind of robotic and a machination where they're not allowing for other possibilities, because you're telling them you have this, 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 and this, and their training tells them that it has to be this,
right?
Even though their gut feeling might be something else. Like they're just going by. Like, it's no different than walking into you're basically walking into a doctor's office to type a bunch of symptoms into WebMD.
Right. I mean, those little charts where you have a question at the top, and then it asks you, pick yes or no, and then if you pick yes, then you have a bunch of other options. If it's no, it's a bunch of these options. It shouldn't be like that at all. I mean, even being a Reiki master teacher and having Reiki be widely accepted now, especially, in our area, in Boston Hospital, some of the top hospitals in the world, they offer that regularly to patients that just get, just wake up from any type of surgery now. My daughter was in Boston Children's Hospital this past summer, and somebody came right in and asked if I would like her to have Reiki, which I thought was amazing, because it's recognized now medically as pain management, which it wasn't before. It was just a bunch of foo-foo stuff.
You were like, hell no, we're not paying for that. I can just do that.
You don't have to pay for it. It's complimentary. So I actually told her, we had a great conversation. I said, I'm actually a Reiki master teacher, and I've been giving her Reiki since she came out of surgery and before. She's like, oh my God, that's wonderful. I can't believe that. And she's like, I'm going to go, lend my services to somebody else since she's already taken care of. But it was actually, kind of a cool, eye-opening situation for me that it's being offered more. And I mean, God, my mother got Reiki certified about 20 years ago. And she had to fight. She was a nurse, and she was taking care of end-stage cancer patients. And she begged her administration to let her do it, because she knew that the benefits were going to be great for her suffering patients. And
So,
now
I mean,
it's in every hospital.
When you're doing Reiki, what is it that you're doing?
So
You're not physically touching somebody.
it's a hands-on healing. You don't have to put your hands on them in order to heal them. You can do 2 to 3 inches above the body. You're transferring universal life force energy. So you're basically, when it's an old Japanese ancient hands-on healing technique, when you get the attunement, it aligns your chakra system a certain way in order to receive universal energy around you. So I describe it to people as like mommy magic. You know, you're a kid, you fall, you get hurt, you cry, but the minute your mother hugs you, it stops.
Right. Well,
no matter how much pain you're in.
That's what I'm certified in that you're not certified in. I'm certified in Miyagi.
Okay, awesome.
You're not certified in Miyagi.
So, or even if you scrape your knee as a kid, you immediately put your hand on it to make it feel better. So you have healing capabilities yourself. But what happens is if you continuously do that yourself, you run out of energy. This aligns you with universal life force energy, so you have an unlimited amount of energy. So you're basically just a conduit to push healing energy or energy around you into somebody else. So you're giving that person the energy it needs in order to heal itself.
So why can't you just do that to somebody without their permission in the hospital? You know,
Because they need to accept it.
the person, right? But the actual medical staff doesn't have to know that you're doing that.
What do you mean?
Like, you can go in there and say, hey, you want me to do some of this Reiki stuff? And the person can be like, yeah, go ahead and do it. You could do it, like, you know.
Well, if you're a stranger and you show up in their room and they have
Right.
no idea who you are, it's a little awkward. They're probably going to want to get you kicked out.
I'm not going to touch you. I'm just going to have my hands
Right.
creepily over you.
But
Right. There's no, like, Reiki Me Too movement, you know? Like, nobody's... like, no, I'm just saying, like, you can do it without touching them and nobody's going to know. So it's...
you can't do it without having the patient
But if the
accept it.
patient's willing to accept it, it doesn't matter if the higher-ups won't approve it, is what I'm saying.
They may or may not allow it because, you know, liability and all that stuff because people are a little crazy.
But how's there liability if you didn't touch them?
Because people can say you did anything.
Yeah, but they don't believe... If the medical staff doesn't believe in what it is that you're doing, then...
The medical staff does. Well, they don't have a choice. The hospital administration believes in it. They have it.
No, I'm talking before they did.
Oh,
I'm trying to go back to, like, when you were saying, like,
yeah.
it wasn't accepted. I'm trying to say, like, there must have been a way to do it without them realizing that you were doing it.
Oh, I'm sure there was.
Do you want me to certify you in Miyagi? Do you want to add that to your arsenal?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you know what Miyagi is?
Yes, I have a great idea of what you're about to say.
What is Miyagi?
I'm not going there. I'm going to let you tell everybody.
She doesn't know what Miyagi is.
No, I do.
So Miyagi is when somebody gets hurt.
Right.
And they're hurting.
Slap
You just
your
go.
hands together. Right.
And then you rub them together, and then you touch it, and then the pain is gone magically. That's not Reiki. That's Miyagi.
It works.
You know how
It's
crazy you
better
are.
than
It does.
Reiki.
Every time my son got hurt growing up, I Miyagi'd
Right.
him, and the pain went away right away.
But you're still transferring your energy to him, which is making him feel better. You just don't have the backup, so you don't get exhausted.
And then I just go like that, and it's works every time. Thank God for Pat Morita.
Right.
What would I know about this world if it wasn't for Pat Morita?
Right.
All
All
right.
right.
What's that?
Well, the next episode that we did was May 27th. I was on a boat, and so while I was doing that, you were
took
here
over.
with Lynn Marie. That was the night where you did the entire episode with your feet up on the desk.
Tisk.
I did.
Yes, that's not exactly accepted procedure here. We're supposed to act
I
like
have nothing to say.
We're supposed to act
'cause
like we're radio professionals.
I
And,
am a professional.
I just click on the video. I'm like, are they on the air, or are they just hanging out waiting for a game to end? What's going on here?
It was comfortable. I have long legs.
She's wrapped up in the conversation.
So does Ken Pittman, but he doesn't put his legs up when he's on the air. Anyway, no, that's because it was you and your friend, and you just wanted to talk to your friend, and just so happened that the radio microphones were in front of you while you were doing it.
I think we had a good episode.
You did. You had a very good episode.
Matt and I had an agreement of code purple,
Right. Code purple.
and I ran the board with help, and it wasn't that bad.
It's not that bad.
It was a little intimidating at first,
I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
but it was a good time.
So
We had fun.
We'll have to have you do it a few times during the year this year to get like more used to it.
Yeah,
You know, where you can just come in and do it.
when I'm around.
I mean, we can show you anytime. It doesn't have to be
I
during
know.
the show. But that's our goal for Spooky South Coast this year, Matt. Get Stephanie trained better on the board.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to.
Because then I'm gonna do a show over there while I eat Taco Bell. While she does the work.
Well, it's been a good 5 years now of me sitting over here eating Taco Bell.
Right. Taco Bell appreciates the show because we count for all of their pre-bar closing business on a Saturday night.
Right.
Then after that, of course, I came back from Bermuda.
You did.
And we had heard that news that our Gary Patterson had passed away. So the next week we did an episode that was a tribute to him because he was supposed to be on the week after that for our 500th episode. Because we decided that for our 500th episode, we were just going to give a gift to ourselves and just listen to Gary tell us awesome stories.
Right.
But instead, we had to look back at the impact that he had, and that was a great show because we got people to call in and share their thoughts about Gary, and of course, Chris and I shared our thoughts and our personal connections with Gary. So you can go back and listen to that. That's episode 499. Then the following week, we had our 500th episode, and we could not figure out how we wanted to best celebrate it with Gary not being able to join us. So we kind of just did a look back at some of our best and worst shows of the last 11 years.
Yep.
Where we 11 and a half years, where we looked at some of the episodes talking about, I remember Commander Sonny Cito came up. We talked about the Backyard Podcast episode, which is still legendary.
Yep.
I think we talked about the Jeff Belanger 40th birthday Backyard Podcast episode.
Yes.
Which is not quite as legendary because we took the discussion, I think, a little too seriously in that one. We didn't have enough fun in that episode. But when Jeff turns 50, forget it. Blowout party.
Oh my God.
Well, I think we'll still be on. Who knows?
I'd hope so.
But and then we had what else did we talk about? Some of the all-time greatest classics. The War of the Worlds episode, which is still I'm very proud of.
Still talked about.
The live radio drama that we did. You know, that was a great one. The Roswell Smackdown. That's always a favorite of people. Where I don't know if we could ever. We should probably try to bring that back sometime. I've always thought that Amityville would be a perfect SmackDown episode, if we could get people to take either side. And but that just worked out. Remember how we were like trying to get like ring sound effects, like ring bells, and you know,
it was fun.
We could do so much more with that now than we could then, especially with the video and all that stuff. So,
well, back then we poorly planned shows and we did it like the day before, and now we do it. Day before.
Nothing made me happier back in those days than when whoever was supposed to cook with me on Saturday mornings at the diner didn't show up, because that meant that Matt had to come in.
Oh, yeah.
And then even though you had to come in on your day off, at least it meant that we could plan the show while we were cooking breakfasts. And that guy would be out front yelling at us to stop worrying about chasing ghosts and just give him more home fries.
Oh my God.
Right.
I hate people.
You know what's funny is I heard about you for years before I started listening to Spooky South Coast about your ghost pancakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did make the ghost pancakes. Yep.
Like, who is this weirdo and why does he make ghost pancakes? And he has a ghost show? Okay, I guess I'll listen.
Those pancakes were... I don't know why people like pancakes anyway. I've never been a big pancake fan. But
I can eat one of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Just one. That's all I need.
Lead pipes.
I'll eat them
pancake.
if they have chocolate chips in them.
Lead pipes. That's what Bernie used to call them. They sit in your stomach like lead pipes.
Gross.
The week after that, we had the first ever time that Jason Offutt joined us, which was surprising considering all the years that we've been doing the show. We had never had him on. We talked about the Missouri butterfly people, shadow figures, so much more. And if you want to go back and listen to that one, we actually discussed in the first hour of that show, we talked about the paranormal power of mirrors. I don't know if you remember that when we were discussing that, but we were talking about like...
I don't think I was here for that episode.
Well, it was the paranormal power of mirrors.
That's very interesting, though.
Well, we know for a fact that there's very strange things that happen in mirrors on investigations. I think that was we were talking about that because at the Provincetown Paracon, we were doing some mirror work in the church.
Mirror scrying, yep.
And everybody was having some very strange experiences with that.
Yes.
Episode 501. We had our friend Ty Gowan join us for the first time ever.
That was an awesome episode.
It was... looking back on it, like it was one of the most highly energetic episodes that we've ever had.
That might be
No, I would have thought the wine festival would have slowed things down a little bit, but it was Ty and a microphone, so magic just happens.
Ty is just magic. He's amazing. I love him. We have to have him back on. He asked to come back on this past summer, but we weren't going to be on air, so we need to get him back.
Well, and he'll be in our area quite a few times.
I'm sure.
So we'll definitely cross paths with him again coming up this year. But people can always watch Haunt Me if you want to see more of Ty. Then after that, we had just come back from the Middleborough Paracon, and we dragged Sherry with us.
We did. That was fun.
That was her first time ever being on the show. And I told the embarrassing story about when I didn't know who she was when she came up to my table at Salem Con.
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, hi. Yeah, I thought she was like one of the producers or something. No idea. Now I know who she is."
I remember you telling me that story, and I still didn't know who she was, and it took me a while. I can't remember. I started talking to her. We actually kind of became friends like via text message.
It was just a matter of I hadn't been keeping up with the latest updates to the show because I was trying not to watch other shows as I was working on the ones that I was working on because I didn't want to be influenced in any way.
Right.
Then we had Ken DaCosta come on and Porter call in when we were promoting the Rhode Island Paracon, which was Ocean State Paracon, which was quite successful this year.
Right. They raised a lot of money for a charity. And
we had a cool investigation associated with it and an excellent dinner.
Yes.
Which we got to work on something at that place, man, just because I got to go back and have some food. Oh, my God. If you have never been to Tavern on the Main, you have to go there and have... Matt, we're going to go there some night, especially like this time of year where it's probably slow. And we're going to go on a Sunday, and I'm going to buy you dinner. That's not weird, right?
No.
For $14, they have like these multi-course meals on a Sunday.
$14? That's not bad.
Yeah, I got fish and chips, but they have like a bunch of different stuff. And
that was a really funny night.
Yeah, we
laughed a lot.
We didn't even really drink either.
We didn't drink.
It was just I think it was from being out in the sun all day, and it
was 100 degrees out.
Yeah, we were dehydrated, and I think we were just automatically goofy.
It was awesome.
But and then after that, we had UFO Jim, which was Matt. You actually booked UFO Jim, didn't you, for us?
I don't remember.
I think you did.
Did I? Maybe.
So we had Jim Ledwith on. That was his first time with us. We had the Boogeyman with Ben Jeffries, where we talked about looking into the Boogeyman in different cultures and looking into, what people have been afraid of over the years. That was also when we had Michael Watchalonis on to talk about Paranormal Evidence, the new virtual reality experience that was coming out August 1st. I got to say, I still haven't downloaded that. I still haven't checked it out. Have you, Matt?
No.
Do you have VR?
I don't.
I should
get it.
I think I'll bring you in my ViewMaster. Because we have the gear.
Is it like the Google Cardboard thing?
Yeah, it's like the same thing. Yeah. And it doesn't have a controller for any ones that use a controller, but you can get a controller at Walmart for like $7.
What is it? It just connects to your phone or something, or?
Yeah, you just stick your phone in it, and then like a lot of the games, you just have to like look in a certain direction, and you don't actually have to press anything.
Yep.
So, but yeah, and then we talked about the Boogeyman, as I said, with Ben Jeffries. Then tragedy struck once again in the spooky Southcoast family, because that's when we lost the great Jim Mars.
Right.
He had been sick for a while. Before that, he had actually lost his eyesight. And Tim Banal and myself had been kind of texting back and forth about how things were going with Jim. And then the word came down that Jim had passed away. So naturally, we had to have Tim come on and share and discuss it with us. And it was hard because he was a mentor. He was a friend. He was a guy who I knew about for years before we even started doing the show. And I was an admirer of his work and his research. And I said, gee, if we could just get that guy to come on one time, I'd be happy. And he came on multiple times with us over the years. He was a great resource to just call on the phone or shoot an email to when you were talking about something and you had a question. Even if he couldn't come on the show when we needed him to because of his schedule, he would give us a bunch of stuff to talk about and a bunch of ways to look at. And I remember when he had his first novel, I think it was called The Sisterhood of the Rose. So his first novel that he ever wrote, and he was so excited about this. And he reached out and he said, can I come on your show and talk about this? Because I love you guys. I love your audience. And I know that your audience would be interested in the story. And I was like, wow, like Jim Mars is a fan of ours now. Like all the years that I worshipped him and what he did, like now he wants to, he looks at us as a place where he can come on and help benefit him. And so it's just an amazing guy. And we lost him too soon. We followed that up the following week with David Gowd's Ward's return, another guy who hadn't been on the show in a number of years. So he came to talk about his new project that he's been working on, the Horror Guide to Massachusetts and the Horror Guide to Northern New England. He's putting together these horror guides for different locations. And that was also the first episode where I could start to spill the beans a little bit about haunted towns.
Right.
And talk about it because we were getting closer to its actual air date. So that was when that fun ride began. And then after that, where else did we go? Oh, that's when we got to the Chicago Mothman, which was one of the biggest paranormal stories of 2017, I'd have to say. All these Chicago Mothman sightings that have happened.
Right.
That Lon Strickler was out there categorizing. He came on, talked about them with us. And there's been a lot of controversy about that. There's been a lot of fighting about that. There's been people who have picked up on their research and carried on their own, and that's caused some problems. There's some people who have called into question their research, so it's been quite the controversial topic. But the fact is, people are still reporting seeing this Mothman-type creature in the Chicago area, even now. Like, the sightings haven't gone away. So that might be a story that continues to bleed into 2019 as well. Let's see, then we had on John David Miller, who joined us to talk about the Siebold effect, beyond science, history, ghosts, and the Appalachian supernatural. That was followed. It was like almost like we were like, we're going to go down south. First we went to Appalachia.
Yep.
And then we followed that up with a trip down to Tennessee because we had Porter on
right.
to finally really get into the discussion about haunted towns. Then one of our favorite episodes of the year, at least one of my favorite episodes, I hope you guys feel the same, that was when we were joined by Dark Waters.
I still talk about that episode.
Such a great episode.
And I really, really think we need to contact him because we're going to New Orleans in November.
Oh, we are definitely going to be hanging out with Dark Waters. We are definitely going to be hanging out with Dark Waters.
I'm really excited for that.
I'm pretty sure if I remember right, he promised me the best po' boys
in
New Orleans.
He would tell us the secret of where they were.
So, Dark, if you are listening, we'll be there in November. I don't remember the actual
November
date.
9th to the 11th.
So we have to make a plan to hook up and hang out, and he's going to show us the real New Orleans.
Right.
I'm so excited for that trip.
I'm really excited for that.
My favorite city on earth, at least in all the places that I've been.
Well,
and I don't throw around that kind of praise lightly.
I have not been yet. This will be my first time, and the event that we'll be attending is called Haunted Bourbon. So definitely look that up.
And one of the discussions is I know that there's different events that are going on around the convention itself, but there's also going to be haunted pub crawls too, where people are going to go out and do some drinking. So
I will not be attending those. I'll be in bed early.
I don't know.
I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do Bourbon Street.
You don't go to bed in New Orleans. There's no going to sleep. You just pass out wherever you are.
I don't think you know how lame I am.
No, that's
Matt, are you coming with us?
I think I'm going to have to.
I think you have to.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of po' boys, but I'm sure there's...
No,
I'm with you.
Wait a minute. Why aren't you a fan of po' boys?
Because shrimp.
But you don't have to have a shrimp po' boy.
But what's your other option?
Anything. They can put anything in a po' boy.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I'll have a gator.
No.
They'll make you a gator po' boy. There's no doubt about that.
I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's like sacrilegious.
You can probably do like a gator sausage po' boy.
Yeah, I'd do that.
No.
Totally.
No, but like what meats would you eat?
I don't know.
They just put like a ton of sauce.
They'll make you a grilled chicken po' boy.
I don't know.
It's just it's not.
It's a sub.
But when I eat meat, it can't taste like meat.
It won't.
You're not going to taste the meat
stuff.
You're going to taste the remoulade. You're going to taste remoulade is awesome. Just a spicy sauce. You're going to taste the remoulade, the lettuce, the tomatoes, the pickles.
Listen, I will luck out because the two people that I constantly push my leftover or unwanted food onto will be there with me. Mm-hmm. So it's usually Tim, and when Tim is not there, it's Porter. So It doesn't matter what I order. You're just going to eat it.
No, what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up saying to Stephanie, like, John, Porter, and I, we're all going to these places. Matt, if he's there, he'll be going. And you can either come with us or not. And then...
You can't just leave me by myself.
Yes, we can. And then if you don't come with us...
Yep.
And you don't, like join us, like, you know, we can be a bunch of sloppy, slobbery eaters with the po' boys. If you do join us, however, we're going to be a bunch of sloppy, slobbery eaters with our po' boys.
What's the difference? Because I've never judged you before.
Yeah, but you're going to have to actually watch this. It's out. It's going to be like that scene from Hell
sloppy?
Baby where we're just like, oh, yeah.
Oh, gross. No.
Oh, yeah. Like these things like fall apart.
No.
It's like, you know, when you're eating a big, you know, like when you let a Big Mac sit a little bit too much and then you go to eat it.
Ugh.
It's like that. It's going to be so good. I cannot wait. We only have a few moments left, so we'll try and burn through these pretty quickly. Episode 512, back on September 30th, we had Jim Andre on to talk about his alien tattoo.
Right.
And also we had the amazing Kreskin join us.
We
and
did.
Actually,
that was a cool episode.
Anybody who is listening to WBSM right now, live on Saturday night, this coming Thursday morning at 9 a.m., the amazing Kreskin will be joining Phil Paleologos on the show to give some predictions for 2018. And he already made one prediction of people going to theaters and taking their clothes off. It's going to become a thing.
I believe it.
In 2018.
I believe it.
That's weird.
So
he was awesome.
We'll see what else he has in store.
I thought it was cool that he turned around the conversation and started interviewing me.
So Thursday is my birthday. And
yes, it is.
so that's why Phil booked him on Thursday.
That's awesome.
I actually have to come in early on my birthday and at 9 o'clock. But, you know, I'm going to come in and we're going to stream it live on WBSM's YouTube channel.
Perfect.
And we'll talk to the amazing Kreskin. So if you liked him on our show, certainly tune in and check him out on Phil's show on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And we'll have it up on YouTube on the WBSM page after that as well. From there, we went to our annual Bridgewater Triangle investigation show, which was one of our best ones this year, I think.
I think so, too. We had a great time.
The video worked out fantastic.
It did.
I love that plan. We're definitely going to do that in the future. Then we had one of our most fascinating discussions ever the week after that with Jeffrey Kreipel of Rice University talking about his new book with Whitley Strieber, talking about how he sees the supernatural as the supernatural, something that's part of the natural world. So definitely check out that episode if you want to get more in depth into things like that. Then we had Shane Sirois come on the show with us as well. That was a long time coming as well. Dr. Andrea Kita came on after that to talk about folklore, which was an excellent episode, I have to say. One of the things that we love to talk about on this show is, as much as we talk about the reality of all the things that we encounter, we also can appreciate and understand that it's part of a greater mythology too, and that we're straddling the line between the two all the time. So we had fun with that. Erica Mailman joined us to talk about Lizzie Borden.
Yes.
With episode 517. And we'll probably just end it because we're running out of time with this one, but it's a good way to end it because a huge announcement was made yesterday, kind of inadvertently. They were waiting, I guess, to kind of make an announcement formally, but the story came out in the Herald News that Maplecroft, Lizzie Borden's other house, people who go to the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast, you know that you're staying in the house where the murders took place, but that Lizzie moved to French Street later on and bought the house of her dreams, Maplecroft, and that's where she lived and where she actually died. And they had her wake right in the front parlor and everything. So that house has been up for sale since September because the owner, Christy Bates, had sunk $400,000 into it after she already bought it for something like $600,000. So she was already into it beyond, you know, what she wanted to be in the restoration process. And it's beautiful inside compared to how it was before. It is amazing inside.
And she kept a lot of it original too.
She painstakingly went back and tried to make it the way that it was.
She uncovered a lot that was...
She removed some walls and things like that. And she wanted to make it into a bed and breakfast, but also a museum, an event space, all these different ideas. She ended up getting into some issues with the city where she couldn't do all the things that she wanted to do. There was a variance that would allow it to be a bed and breakfast, but all this other stuff that she wanted to add into it, there would have been an issue.
It turned out very political, I think.
So, as is everything in Fall River. So, in the end, they're trying to find somebody who can come in and buy it. It was on the market at first for like $850,000. Then it dropped down to $699,000.
Yep.
I was waiting it to drop to $100 so that we could buy it, but it never came to be.
I would have splurged for 200.
Yeah, that's true. We probably could have done like a GoFundMe and
Right.
we could have done 1,000. But so it got to the point where, it only made sense for one person to buy the house.
Agreed.
It only made sense for Donald Woods and Leanne Wilbur, the two people who own and operate the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast.
Right.
They were the ones that needed to have the house. And
Agreed.
We talked to them about it. We talked to Leanne about it. They wanted to have the house for a number of years, but the numbers never worked out. And when they finally got to the point where the numbers worked out, they jumped on it. And so now Donald has officially purchased. He's going to be signing the paperwork this week. He and Leanne will be in charge of Maplecroft, although Donald's son is coming in to actually be the live-in manager, and he's going to be operating everything over there because, of course, Leanne has her hands full with the other house. But, there'll be a lot of synergy between the two homes. And so people will, of course, want to come to Fall River now and stay in Lizzie Borden's other house. So if you were coming and planning on staying at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast anytime soon, make it a 2-night trip because you're going to want to stay in the other house. They're talking about having it open maybe by February.
I'm excited.
So, and of course,
we've talked about this for years.
We're going to get a chance to go in there and check things out.
This is bucket list for us.
So absolutely pay attention to the Lizzie Borden website. It's lizzie-borden.com, I think, is the one for the bed and breakfast. There's a couple of different ones, so it's hard to remember. But pay attention to their site because they'll have more announcements about it as it gets closer to happening. And we're out of time for this week's show. So we will, this is it. This is the last one of the year, so we can say we'll see you next year.
See you next year. Happy New Year to all of our listeners.
The lamest joke that's out there, but
that's okay.
We will see you next year when we start 2018 with a bang and we head into our 12th year of being on the radio. Until then, have a safe and happy New Year's. For Matt, for Stephanie, for Chris, I'm Tim. We want you all to stay spooktacular.